The Galactic Council chamber was built to intimidate. It succeeded. Suspended in the vacuum between stars, the structure itself was a monument to unity, vast rings of luminous alloy rotating slowly around a radiant core. Inside, gravity, atmosphere, and temperature shifted subtly across sectors to accommodate the thousands of species that called the galaxy home. Every delegation occupied its own environment, its own comfort zone, yet all faced the same central dais. A symbol, they said, of cooperation? Commander Elias Varn saw something else. Control. He stepped onto the central platform alone. No escorts. No advisors. No ceremonial guard. That, more than anything, unsettled the council. A low murmur rippled through the chamber, translated into 1,000 languages simultaneously. Shapes shifted in distant balconies. Towering arthropods flexed their limbs, bioluminescent beings pulsed in agitated patterns, and avian delegates flared metallic wings in restrained displays of curiosity. At the highest tier, encased within a sphere of shimmering fields, sat the High Speaker. Threxel. Its form was fluid, a mass of dark matter threads woven into a vaguely upright silhouette. No fixed shape, no recognizable face, only a constant, unsettling motion, like shadows attempting to remember a body. When it spoke, the chamber fell silent. Commander Elias Varn of Sol, Threxel intoned, its voice harmonizing across frequencies. You stand before the Galactic Council as the representative of your species. Do you acknowledge this assembly's authority? Elias stopped at the center, hands clasped behind his back. His uniform was unadorned, charcoal gray, devoid of insignia beyond a single emblem at the collar, a simple blue sphere. Earth. I acknowledge your existence, he said calmly. The silence that followed sharpened. Threxel's form tightened, threads coiling inward. You were instructed in the protocols. A formal acknowledgement is required. I'm aware. Then comply. Elias lifted his gaze, meeting the shifting darkness without hesitation. No. The word landed like a fracture. Around the chamber, whispers erupted. Translation fields struggled to keep pace as confusion turned to agitation. No civilization had ever refused the opening acknowledgement. It was ceremonial, meaningless in practical terms, but essential in principle. Threxel did not react immediately. When it did, the temperature of the room seemed to drop. Clarify your position. Elias's expression remained steady. Humanity does not recognize external authority over its sovereignty. A ripple of disapproval spread, more focused now, less uncertain. This was not ignorance. This was defiance. Threxel adjusted its posture, expanding slightly, asserting presence. You misunderstand your position. Admission to the galactic community requires acceptance of foundational protocols. And rejection of those protocols? Elias asked. Results in isolation. Understood. The simplicity of his reply unsettled more than any argument could have. Threxel paused, recalibrating. Very well. We will proceed. A gesture, if it could be called that, triggered the activation of the chamber's central display. Holographic structures unfolded in the air between them, layers of agreements encoded in shifting light. The Council extends standard integration treaties to all emerging civilizations, Threxel said. These include trade access, defensive alliances, technological exchange, and resource allocation. Acceptance ensures prosperity and protection. The first set of documents drifted forward. Trade accord, Threxel announced. Access to interstellar markets, regulated commerce, and economic integration. Elias didn't move. Do you accept? No. This time, the reaction was immediate. Several delegates rose from their positions, their species-specific equivalents of alarm evident. A refusal of trade was rare, but not unheard of. Some civilizations preferred isolation at first contact. Threxel remained composed. Defense pact, it continued. Mutual protection. An attack on one is an attack on all. Your world would gain the combined strength of the Council's fleets. Elias glanced at the display, then back at Threxel. No. The murmurs intensified. A crystalline entity pulsed violently, its internal light flickering erratically. They reject protection? It transmitted, its voice cutting through the general noise. Is this a negotiation tactic? Threxel ignored the interruption. Technological exchange, it said, pushing forward the next set of agreements. Access to advancements beyond your current capabilities. Energy, propulsion, medicine. Elias's gaze lingered for a fraction longer this time, as if considering. Then he shook his head. No. The chamber erupted. Multiple species spoke at once, their voices overlapping in a chaotic wave. Some expressed outrage, others disbelief. A few, quieter, observed in silence. Threxel raised a single filament. The noise died instantly. You refuse trade. You refuse defense. You refuse advancement, it said. Explain. Elias exhaled slowly, as though choosing his words with care. Every agreement you've presented binds us to your network, he said. Your systems. Your obligations. That is the purpose of unity. That is the purpose of dependency. A faint shift passed through the chamber, not agreement, but recognition. The statement held weight. Threxel's form darkened, its edges sharpening. Interdependence is the foundation of stability. Isolation leads to vulnerability. Not always. Your species lacks the perspective to make that determination. Elias's lips curved slightly, not a smile, not quite. We have more perspective than you think. The high speaker leaned forward, its presence pressing down like gravity. Then enlighten us. Why does humanity refuse every path offered to it? For the first time, Elias hesitated. Not in uncertainty, but in restraint. He glanced around the chamber, taking in the countless observers, the intricate web of connections that defined the council. Data streams flowed constantly between delegates, silent communication networks linking systems across vast distances. A living, breathing structure of information. A beacon. Elias returned his focus to Threxel. Because your system won't survive, he said quietly. The words cut deeper than any defiance. A stillness settled, heavy and absolute. Threxel's form stilled entirely, a rare occurrence, as if even its constant motion had been arrested. Clarify. Elias shook his head. Not here. You will not dictate the terms of this discussion. I'm not dictating anything, Elias replied. I'm warning you. A sharp, collective intake of breath, translated, interpreted, felt across species in different ways. Warning us? Threxel repeated. Yes. Of what? Elias met the void where a face should have been. Collapse. The chamber erupted again, louder this time, anger replacing confusion. Arrogance. Delusion. Remove them. Threxel did not silence them immediately. It allowed the reaction to build, to peak, to reveal the collective sentiment. Then, with a single motion, it imposed order. You offer a claim without evidence, it said. A prediction without basis. Why should this council consider your words anything more than provocation? Elias didn't respond right away. Instead, he reached into his uniform and withdrew a small device. No larger than his palm, unremarkable in design. He placed it on the platform. It activated with a soft hum. A map unfolded above it, stars, systems, routes of communication. The council's domain, rendered in precise detail. Then sections of it vanished. Not faded. Not dimmed. Gone. Entire regions blinked out, leaving empty voids where civilizations had once been. A wave of unease spread through the chamber, quieter this time, deeper. These are your outer systems, Elias said. Or they were. Threxel's form flickered. Fabrication. No, Elias replied. Delay. The word lingered. What you're seeing is what happens when the signal stops. He continued. No distress call. No warning. Just silence. A pause. Something is moving, Elias said. And it listens. The chamber held its breath. Elias deactivated the device. The map vanished. We learned the hard way, he said. You're about to. Threxel studied him, its shifting form betraying, for the first time, a hint of uncertainty. And your solution? It asked slowly. Is to refuse everything? Elias nodded. Yes. A long silence followed. Then Threxel spoke, its voice colder than before. Then humanity will stand alone. Elias turned, already stepping away from the platform. We already are. As he walked toward the exit, a transmission reached the chamber, urgent, unfiltered. Galactic intelligence. A single line. Outer system Caris 9 has gone dark. No signals. No survivors. Only silence. And for the first time, the Council began to listen. The silence from Caris 9 lasted 12 standard hours. That, more than its disappearance, disturbed the Council. Systems failed before. Catastrophes occurred. Stars collapsed, civilizations imploded, wars erased entire sectors. But in every case, there were traces, fragments of data, distress signals, radiation echoes. Something always lingered. Caris 9 left nothing. No debris. No energy spikes. No escape transmissions. It simply ceased to exist. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere had shifted. Where there had been arrogance, now there was restraint. Where voices once overlapped in confident debate, they now carried hesitation. High Speaker Threxel observed the data streams in silence. Confirmed the absence, it said. A cluster of crystalline delegates pulsed in coordinated patterns, their internal light dimming. All sensors report null returns. Gravitational readings stable. Stellar mass intact. However, all artificial signatures are gone. Gone, Threxel repeated. Erase. Another voice added, softer. The distinction mattered. Across the chamber, representatives adjusted their stances. The avian syndicate folded its metallic wings closer to its body. The insected Hrax collective stilled its limbs, antennae lowering in cautious alignment. At the center of the chamber, the human envoy stood alone. Commander Elias Varn had not requested to speak. He hadn't needed to. Threxel turned toward him. This aligns with your warning. Elias nodded once. It does. You claim knowledge of this phenomenon. I do. Then you will explain. Elias's gaze drifted to the empty projection field where Caris 9 had once been represented. Not here. A ripple of irritation passed through the council. You presume authority again, Threxel said. I presume discretion. Your conditions are not acceptable. Elias met the High Speaker's shifting form without flinching. Then neither is survival. The words landed heavier than before. No one dismissed them this time. Threxel paused. The chamber held still, waiting. Very well, it said at last. A restricted session will be convened. Only primary delegates will attend. Elias inclined his head slightly. That will suffice. The restricted chamber was smaller, sealed behind layers of containment fields. No external transmissions. No passive sensors. Only direct observation and internal recording. Threxel occupied the center, its form condensed, more defined than in the public assembly. Around it, a select group of delegates gathered, leaders of the most influential species. Elias entered last. No ceremony. No announcement. Begin, Threxel said. Elias remained standing. You've already seen the first stage. Caris 9. Yes. Explain it. Elias exhaled slowly. It starts with distance. A faint flicker passed through Threxel's form. Distance? The outer systems go first, Elias said. Low traffic. Fewer redundancies. Easier to isolate. Isolate from what? A reptilian delegate demanded, its voice sharp. From you, Elias replied. The chamber stilled. You're all connected, he continued. Trade routes, communication networks, data relays. Every system feeds into the next. Constant signals. Constant noise. That is the foundation of our unity, Threxel said. It's also your weakness. A murmur spread through the room, restrained but present. Elias activated his device again. The galactic map unfolded, more detailed this time. Threads of light connected systems, pulsing with information. This is your network, he said. Every transmission, every update, every exchange. You've built a web that spans the galaxy. And something is following those threads. Silence. That's conjecture, one of the delegates said. Elias tapped the device. Sections of the map dimmed, systems at the outer edge. These were your first losses, he said. Sparse connections. Limited traffic. More sections darkened, moving inward. It doesn't attack randomly. It traces pathways. It listens. Threxel leaned forward slightly. Listens to what? Elias met its gaze. To you. Hours passed. Data was presented, analyzed, challenged. Elias answered every question with measured precision, offering just enough detail to confirm his claims without revealing everything. The pattern emerged slowly. Outer systems vanished first. Then those connected to them. Each disappearance followed the same sequence. Communications degraded, signals dropped, then nothing. No energy discharge. No detectable force. Just absence. Why have we not detected this earlier? Threxel asked. You did, Elias said. You dismissed it. The high speaker's form tightened. Explain. Elias shifted the map again, highlighting faint anomalies, minor signal distortions, slight delays in transmission. You've recorded irregularities for cycles, he said. Inconsistent data. Unexplained losses. You classified them as system errors. A crystalline delegate pulsed, its light flickering rapidly. The anomalies were negligible. They were warnings. Warnings of what? Another voice pressed. Elias hesitated. The room leaned in. Of something learning, he said. Threxel processed the statement. You describe an intelligence. Elias didn't answer immediately. Not like you understand it, he said finally. Clarify. It doesn't think the way you do, Elias replied. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't expand territory. It doesn't communicate. Then what does it do? Elias's voice dropped slightly. It consumes. The words settled heavily. Energy? Threxel asked. Information, Elias said. Signals. Activity. Presence. Anything that marks a system as alive. A long silence followed. That is not possible, a delegate said, though its tone lacked conviction. Elias met its gaze. You saw Caris 9. The session ended without resolution. The council needed verification. Within hours, probes were dispatched toward the last known coordinates of Caris 9. Long-range sensors were recalibrated. Communication networks intensified their monitoring. Everything the humans had warned about, they did the opposite. They increased activity. And something responded. The second system fell during observation. Velis 12. Unlike Caris 9, the Council witnessed its final moments. Signals fluctuated first, minor delays barely noticeable. Then distortions. Data packets arrived corrupted, incomplete. Stabilize the link, Threxel ordered. Technicians complied, amplifying the signal. For a moment it held. Then the feed fractured. Visuals collapsed into static. Audio dissolved into a low, continuous hum. And then, nothing. The system disappeared. Not gradually. Instantly. Every signal cut at once. The star remained. The planets remained. Everything else was gone. The chamber didn't erupt this time. No one spoke. Threxel turned slowly toward Elias. You knew this would happen. No one spoke after Elias's final words. It's already here. The statement didn't echo. It didn't need to. It settled into the chamber, pressing against every mind present, reshaping thought into something sharper, colder. High Speaker Threxel did not respond immediately. Its form, usually in constant motion, had slowed to a near stillness, threads suspended as if time itself hesitated around them. Define here, it said at last. Elias didn't rush his answer. Within your network. A ripple moved through the delegates, controlled but unmistakable. You claim infiltration, Threxel said. I'm stating proximity, Elias replied. You're all connected. That's how it navigates. That is assumption. One of the crystalline delegates interjected, its light flickering erratically. Correlation does not prove causation. Elias inclined his head slightly. Then observe the pattern. He activated his device again. The map expanded, brighter than before, threads of light stretching between systems and intricate layers. But this time, the darkness wasn't confined to the edges. It was moving inward. You've seen systems vanish, Elias said. But you haven't asked why some lasted longer than others. Threxel focused on the projection. Explain. Elias isolated a cluster of systems, highlighting differences in their data streams. These maintained lower transmission rates, he said. Less traffic. Fewer signals. Another cluster appeared, brighter, denser. These were highly active. Trade hubs. Communication relays. Central nodes. They were the first to fall. The implication settled heavily. You're suggesting activity attracts it, Threxel said. I'm stating it tracks activity, Elias corrected. The more you broadcast, the clearer you become. A long silence followed. Then silence is the solution, a reptilian delegate said quickly. Elias shook his head. Silence delays. It doesn't stop. Then what does? Elias didn't answer. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as external feeds were restricted. For the first time since its creation, the Galactic Council limited its own communication. It felt unnatural. Uncomfortable. Necessary. Threxel turned inward, processing rapidly. You've encountered this before. Yes. Where? Beyond your charts, Elias said. Deep space. And you survived. Elias's expression tightened, just enough to be noticed. Some of us did. The admission shifted the tone of the room. You lost systems, Threxel said. Elias didn't deny it. We lost more than that. Then why are you still here? Elias met its gaze. Because we learned. The projection shifted again. This time, it wasn't the galactic map. It was something else. Fragments of data, human records. Distorted transmissions. Corrupted logs. Sensor readings that defied interpretation. 32 years ago, Elias said, we detected the first anomaly. The display showed a distant star system, unremarkable, uninhabited. Probe data returned incomplete. Signal degradation. We assumed equipment failure. The next image appeared. A colony. Then we lost contact with one of our outer settlements. No distress signal. No warning. Silence filled the chamber. We sent ships, Elias continued. They found nothing. No debris. No bodies. No damage. Just absence. A crystalline delegate dimmed its light. And you did not share this? We didn't understand it, Elias said. Not yet. More data appeared. Patterns. Timelines. Systems fading, one by one. Each loss followed increased activity, Elias said. Expansion. Communication. Growth. Threxel leaned forward. So you reduced activity. We tried, Elias said. It didn't matter. Once it noticed us, it kept coming. A pause. Then how did you survive? Threxel asked. Elias hesitated. The room tightened around the silence. By disappearing, he said finally. The statement hung in the air. You expect us to vanish? A delegate demanded. I expect you to understand the cost of being seen, Elias replied. That is not a strategy. That is surrender. It's survival. Threxel's form shifted, agitation breaking through its controlled composure. You reject integration, refuse cooperation, and now you offer extinction as a solution? Elias's voice remained steady. I'm offering you the truth. Your truth. The only one that matters right now. A sharp tension filled the chamber. You assume authority without consent, Threxel said. I assume responsibility, Elias answered. For what? For being the only ones who listened early enough. A sudden interruption cut through the exchange. An emergency signal. Not external, internal. The Council's own systems. Threxel froze. Report. A disembodied voice responded, strained. Central relay station experiencing instability. Signal degradation across multiple sectors. The chamber dimmed further as systems reallocated power. Stabilize, Threxel ordered. We're attempting. The transmission fractured. Static. Then silence. A section of the map flickered. One of the core relays. Gone. The distance between the losses and the Council had just collapsed. The room shifted. Fear, no longer theoretical, took shape. It's accelerating, a delegate whispered. Elias watched the map, his expression unreadable. No, he said quietly. It's converging. Threxel turned sharply. Explain. You've increased communication, Elias said. Monitoring, coordination, response efforts. You've made yourselves brighter. We needed data, Threxel said. You made a beacon. The words struck harder than any accusation. You're saying we caused this, Threxel said. I'm saying you helped it find you faster. Another system flickered. Closer. Too close. Shut down non-essential transmissions, Threxel ordered immediately. The chamber responded. Data streams dimmed. Background communication collapsed into minimal pulses. For a moment, the map stabilized. No new losses. The silence stretched. Then, another system vanished. Even with reduced activity. Threxel's form tightened. That should have worked. It's already tracking you, Elias said. Lowering your signal now only changes how it approaches. Then what do we do? A delegate demanded. Elias didn't answer immediately. He studied the map, the spreading darkness, the shrinking space between survival and erasure. Then he deactivated the projection. The room fell into near darkness. No data. No movement. Just presence. Stop, he said. Threxel stared at him. Stop what? Everything. A heavy silence followed. That is not possible, Threxel said. It is, Elias replied. You just don't want it to be. Explain. Elias took a breath. For it to lose you, he said, you have to become invisible. Define invisible. No transmissions. No active networks. No long-range signals. No coordinated data streams. The implications settled in, one by one. You're asking us to dismantle the Council, Threxel said. I'm asking you to survive. And after? Another voice pressed. What remains of us? Elias met their gaze. Those who adapt. A long silence followed. Then Threxel spoke, its voice quieter than before. You knew this would happen. Yes. And you said nothing. I tried, Elias said. You weren't ready to listen. Threxel's form shifted, uncertainty threading through its structure. And now? Elias looked around the chamber, at the faces, alien, varied, unified only by the same growing realization. No, he said. You don't have a choice. Another alert flashed. Closer still. The map, even without projection, seemed to linger in their minds, darkness spreading, systems fading, connections becoming pathways to extinction. Threxel held its position for a long moment. Then, finally, it asked the question it had avoided. What must we do? Elias didn't hesitate this time. Everything you built, he said. You have to let it go. Silence answered him. And in that silence, the truth settled completely. The galaxy was not under attack. It was being found. The Galactic Council had never known stillness. For cycles beyond counting, its existence had been defined by motion, constant exchanges, endless data, a seamless flow of information binding thousands of civilizations into a single, functioning entity. Every system spoke. Every node listened. Every signal reinforced the illusion of permanence. Now, that illusion was breaking. Inside the council chamber, the vast networks that once shimmered in layered brilliance had dimmed to near darkness. Data streams that once pulsed like veins through a living organism were now severed, reduced to isolated fragments. For the first time, the galaxy was quiet. And it terrified them. High Speaker Threxel remained at the center, its form compressed, movements minimal. Around it, the delegates no longer displayed outrage or pride. Those had burned away, replaced by something colder. Awareness. Commander Elias Varn stood where he had stood before, unchanged, composed, watching. "You said we must let everything go," Threxel said, its voice lower, stripped of its earlier authority. "Define everything." Elias did not answer immediately. He looked across the chamber, at the representatives of worlds that had never imagined vulnerability. Then he spoke. "Your network," he said. "Your coordination. Your reliance on constant communication. It all has to stop." A flicker of resistance moved through the room. "That is not a temporary adjustment," a crystalline delegate said. "That is dismantlement." "Yes." "We would lose cohesion." "Yes." "We would become isolated." "Yes." The repetition carried weight. Threxel shifted, threads tightening. "And in that isolation, we survive?" Elias held its gaze. "Some of you will." The honesty landed harder than reassurance ever could. "You offer no certainty," Threxel said. "There isn't any." A silence followed, deep and heavy. "Then why should we follow your guidance?" another delegate demanded. "Why should we trust a species that refused us at every turn?" Elias took a slow breath, then answered with quiet precision. "Because we've already done this," he said. The chamber stilled. Elias activated his device once more. No maps this time. No projections of the galaxy. Only a single system appeared. "So, 30 years ago," he said, "we made the same mistake you're making now." The image shifted, showing dense lines of communication radiating outward, human expansion, exploration, growth. "We reached outward. Established colonies. Built networks. Connected everything." Another shift. The lines began to fragment. "We lost our first system," Elias continued. "Then another. We thought it was sabotage. Equipment failure. Anything but what it was." The projection dimmed further. "We increased monitoring. Strengthened signals. Tried to understand." He paused. "We made ourselves louder." The final image appeared. Darkness, swallowing entire sections of human space. "We lost 12 systems in less than a year." A low murmur spread through the chamber, quieter than before, weighted with comprehension. "What changed?" Threxel asked. Elias deactivated the display. "We stopped," he said. The word lingered. "Explain," Threxel pressed. Elias met its gaze. "We shut everything down." A ripple of disbelief moved through the delegates. "Impossible," one said. "Your civilization would collapse." "It nearly did," Elias replied. The admission carried no embellishment. "We cut long-range communication," he continued. "Disconnected colonies. Shut down relays. Reduced emissions to the lowest possible levels." "And your people?" another asked. "How did they react?" Elias's expression tightened slightly. "They didn't have a choice." A pause. "We lost contact with entire populations," he said. "Not because they were gone, but because we couldn't risk finding out." The chamber fell silent. "We became isolated," Elias said. "Fragmented. Blind." "And that saved you?" Threxel asked. "It hit us," Elias replied. Long enough to adapt. Threxel processed the information, its form shifting with restrained tension. Adapt how? Elias stepped forward slightly, his voice steady. We changed how we exist, he said. We reduced our footprint. Limited our activity. Built systems that function without broadcasting. Stealth, Threxel said. Survival. A faint pause. And now? Threxel asked. Now that you stand here, speaking to us, you are visible again. Elias nodded. Yes. A murmur spread. Then why come? A delegate demanded. Why risk exposure? Elias's gaze swept the chamber. Because you were already visible, he said. The room stilled. You've been broadcasting across the galaxy for cycles, he continued. You built a signal so strong, it doesn't matter if we stay silent. It already knows where to look. The weight of the statement settled heavily. You let it hear, Threxel said quietly. Elias didn't respond. He didn't need to. Another alert flashed across the chamber. Closer than before. No one spoke as the data resolved. A core system. One of the Council's central hubs. Gone. No warning. No trace. The distance between them and extinction had collapsed to nothing. What must we do? Threxel asked again, its voice no longer carrying authority, only urgency. Elias didn't hesitate. We establish a protocol, he said. Not a treaty. Not an alliance. A survival plan. Threxel's form shifted slightly. Define it. Elias raised his hand, counting each point with measured precision. First, he said, you shut down all long-range transmissions. No exceptions. A delegate flinched. That will sever coordination. Yes. Second, Elias continued, you dismantle the central network. No shared data streams. No synchronized systems. That will fracture the Council, Threxel said. It will keep you alive. A pause. Third, Elias said, you reduce energy signatures. High-output systems, large-scale infrastructure, shut them down or relocate them. That will cripple entire worlds, a voice protested. Elias met it evenly. Better crippled than gone. Silence answered him. Fourth, he said, you follow a decentralized model. Independent systems, minimal communication, localized decision-making. And the Council? Threxel asked. Elias's answer was simple. It ends. The word landed with finality. For a long moment, no one spoke. Threxel remained still, its form shifting slowly as it processed the reality before it. We built this, it said at last. Unity. Cooperation. Order. And it worked, Elias said. Until it didn't. You ask us to abandon everything we are. I'm asking you to survive long enough to become something else. A silence followed, deeper than any before. And you? Threxel asked. What role does humanity play in this? Elias didn't look away. We coordinate what we can, he said. Quietly. Carefully. Without drawing attention. You refused our treaties, Threxel said. Yes. And now you offer guidance? Elias's voice remained steady. We offer experience. Another alert. Closer still. No one needed to see the data. They could feel it. Time had run out. Threxel's form tightened, then slowly expanded, reclaiming a fraction of its former presence. Very well, it said. The chamber stilled. We accept your protocol. The words carried weight beyond their simplicity. Around the room, delegates shifted, some in relief, others in quiet despair. What happens now? One of them asked. Elias exhaled slowly. No, he said. You go dark. The shutdown began immediately. Across the galaxy, systems disconnected. Networks collapsed. Signals faded into silence. Trade routes vanished. Data streams ceased. Entire civilizations withdrew into themselves, cutting ties that had defined them for centuries. The galaxy went quiet. Not gradually. All at once. Inside the council chamber, the lights dimmed further as the final connections were severed. For the first time since its creation, the Galactic Council ceased to exist. In the darkness, Threxel spoke. "You refused us," it said. Elias stood beside it, watching the last traces of light fade. "Yes. To save us." Elias shook his head slightly. "We refuse," he said, "because we listened." The chamber fell silent. And beyond its walls, something vast and unseen passed through the galaxy. Searching. Listening. Finding nothing. And moving on.